Hey, what is up? This is Adam with cloudautomation.blog. In this video, I'm going to show you how to update what the end user can see and update within a catalog item. Context around this video is going to be around Azure and the Azure endpoint. So let's jump in. Starting out, let's take a look at the out-of-the-box offering from VMware. So if I click request, we drill into that. I can click into the single machine. What we see here is a pretty clean layout. So there's some general information, build information, machine resources, storage, and network related information. Nice and clean layout, looks pretty good, but it's pretty limited and I can't modify anything here. So if you actually want to modify this layout, check out the very first video in this series on how to actually do that. And that's what I'm going to get into right now. So let me click cancel. And once you modify it, following that first video, what it's going to look like is something like this. And it may be a little messy, but it works. So you're going to see general, you're going to see common parameters, resource groups, storage, networking, availability set, image, and step. This is all out of video one from what I showed you how to customize this. A lot of this is useless information, at least to most end users, as well as most admins. So how do we actually make this look better and provide value to the end user? So I'm going to cancel out of this request and let me jump into the Ubuntu Azure with lifecycle-clean. So one thing to notice real quick is that I've actually named it an OS, and there's some value there. I'm going to show you why and how we actually do that. So I'm going to click request on this. I'm going to drill into the component. So there's the general, there's build information, storage, network, and image. Looking at build information, I've already preset a lot of the information here. Resource group name, the location, prefix I'm going to use. Jumping over to storage, 0 drives by default. Network, 1 NIC by default, but I don't actually have to fill out any of the information. And then under image, I've made some changes here. So there's the series. You can see if I click A, I can now click A1 V2. That's custom. I've added this Azure sizing link because maybe A1 V2 doesn't mean anything to most end users. And then I've locked down the machine image URN. Now you can still see it. And the reason I did that is because I tied this URN to the actual name of the blueprint, which is that Ubuntu name. Keep that in mind in just 1 second. So if I jump out of here and I go to design, I go to X as a service blueprints, and I go to Azure VM with lifecycle-clean. Let me drill into that. If you notice, there's no OS associated with that. That's just the high-level X as a service blueprint. If you click blueprint form, and what we'll see here is what I actually just created. So one thing that you have to keep in mind with the X as a service blueprint versus the actual blueprint is things that will not change between different users or different blueprints should be changed in this form. So for example, the subscription ID. If you have one subscription ID for many users, you're going to probably want to hide that. If you notice that we didn't see that in my offering. So not only do you want to hide it, but you also want to click on it in the X as a service blueprint view. Click on that item. If you look under details, you'll see the default value I've already preset. I did the same thing with location because I know my subscription ID, my resource group, everything else is tied to US East and on and on. Now, something you may not want to do because you want to reuse this over and over again with different operating systems is you don't want to tie the image. So the machine image URN, the OS type, and the image type. You don't actually want to tie those to a single URN here. So as you can see, the default value is empty, and under constraints, the value is also empty. Where I did update that, though, if I jump over to another window, we're in the actual blueprint editor now for this Azure VM, which is the Ubuntu Azure with Lifecycle. If I jump over to image, you'll see here, this is where I actually set it. You can click into that, you can set the value there. And what that means is that only for this blueprint will this URN populate. For every other blueprint that uses the Azure VM with lifecycle-clean, it will be empty. If you want to create, let's say, a Windows one, you could click, let me click finish out of this, go back to blueprints, you could click on new blueprint, drag the Azure VM with lifecycle-clean onto the canvas, drill into that, build info. You can see, again, a lot of this is filled out from the X as a service blueprint, but if I go over to image, you'll notice the URN is empty, the value is empty. This is where you can jump onto Azure, get the URN, populate it here, click apply, click finish, and now you've deployed the exact same X as a service blueprint that we're deploying with the Ubuntu, but we're actually using a Windows URN. Now let me just quickly show you how to modify the X as a service blueprint without breaking anything. Clicking on design, then X as a service and X as a service blueprints. What you're going to want to do after you've watched the first video and created this X as a service blueprint is copy that blueprint. So click that, click copy. You're going to get a second one. Drill into that, rename it, click finish just so it's saved, drill back into it, go to the blueprint form, and this is where you can start moving things around. So there is a step form page You can delete that. You don't even need it. It will not break anything. The resource group and availability set are also different form pages. You can also delete those, but you'll still need the resource group. If you just delete it and don't actually add this field back, the workflow will fail because it needs that resource group name. So what you can do is just drag that back onto the canvas, and what you're going to want to do is just look for it. So what I did is I clicked them when they were still on the resource group page. I clicked them and looked for resource group creation type, and then the label, create or reuse resource group. If I go over on the left here and I look at fields, you can see right here, create or reuse resource group, create or reuse availability set. And the same thing goes for the resource group name and the availability set name. So you can see the availability set name is there and the resource group name is right there. Now you'll need to delete those first. Even if they're on other pages, if you try to drag them on, you will get an error. So you can delete them, re-add them, and everything will map automatically. I hope that helped. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Thanks for watching my video and have a great day.